Hello again, and welcome to another segment where we talk about spiritual self-care. I've been doing this for, a few months now. And surprisingly, I still have more to say. I'm a priest. I always have more I could say. Right, it's kind of what we do. But we've just been talking about little kind of insights and things that An icicle just fell close to me. Sorry, that freaked me out. Anyways, as I was saying, what was I saying? Anyways, we're not off to a good start this time. I've been just talking about little kind of nuggets of wisdom, insights that I've discovered that'd be helpful over the years for myself. So I felt like maybe they're worthwhile sharing with you all. And I've got a lot of positive feedback for these videos. So thank you all for tuning in weekly and hearing what I have to say and considering what I have to say. This week, I just want to share just something really simple. And it seems like it should be common sense, but I don't think it is for a lot of Christians. The fact that we do not exist as brains on sticks, that we are embodied creatures, we are embodied entities, and spirituality shouldn't just involve this thing that we call the brain or the heart, but it should involve the totality of who we are, and just this notion of embodied spirituality. So one of the things that I really appreciate about the Episcopal Church and our traditionalism, there's all of the symbolism, the vestments, everything with the liturgy, right? But just in a really practical, from a practical standpoint, and not even looking at what the symbolism might mean or what it might be pointing to, but just something very practical, is that we Episcopalians engage the body in worship on Sundays. And there's different forms of piety. Some people really go all out in all of the different rituals, the physical rituals. Some people are kind of minimalistic, and there's also a beauty in that diversity that we have in the Episcopal Church. But I like the fact that we are a tradition where people, where they cross themselves. And when the gospel is being proclaimed, they make the threefold crosses on their, mind, words, tongue, right, and heart. There's kneeling, there's standing, there's sitting. There's all kinds of things. We have processions where it's like basically a Jesus parade where people sing hymns and we parade behind a big cross. And it's an embodied faith. And it's not just aiming to hit the head or even just the heart, right? It's aiming to hit all of you, to engage all of you, all of your embodiedness. And I think that is helpful to think about in terms of spirituality, because we tend to even we Episcopalians can do very embodied things during the liturgy, but then when it comes to our personal piety and our personal kind of spiritual lives, we kind of live in a disembodied type of spirituality. So we focus on the intellect or the emotions to the exclusion of the rest of our remaining physicality. And not that there's anything wrong with being intellectual in spirituality or being emotive, right, in spirituality. But, we come out of a ritual of standing, sitting, kneeling, crossing ourselves. And if we go home to a spirituality where we're just sitting and reading, right, or sitting and meditating, there's kind of a disconnect there. Not that those things are bad, but I just urge you to think about in what ways can you engage the fullness of yourself in your spiritual practices outside of church, In what ways can you be more embodied in your spirituality? And there's all kinds of great options, even if it's just as simple as crossing yourself before you enter into a moment of prayer, or deciding to kneel, right? Or anything along those lines, or even something like yoga. Yoga is a wonderful thing in terms of practicing an embodied spirituality. It's like merging kind of exercise together with a contemplative state of mind. If you can engage in yoga, or going for walks are very spiritual too. If you can just take your prayer out with you as you're walking through your neighborhood or through your town, right? So things to think about. We are embodied beings, and our spirituality should tap into that in some way, engage the fullness of who we are, and not just our hearts and not just our minds. So think about ways in which you can bring your physicality, bring the totality of yourself into your spiritual practices. God bless. Thank you for tuning in.